There were over 52,000 tech layoffs this quarter alone, and at the same time, software engineering listings went up by 30%. So it's a very interesting year for us as software engineers because we don't quite know what exactly do we need to not only survive in this job market of ours, but to also thrive in it. So in this particular video, I'm going to be discussing the 3 skills that you need now more than ever as a software engineer to not only survive this job market, but to also completely thrive in it from a financial as well as a lifestyle perspective when it comes to your career. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to be talking about this from the perspective of somebody who went from an employee to an employer, having gone from a junior all the way to a manager in about 3 years' time, leaving my $250,000 salary behind to pursue my B2B AI consulting firm that I started in LA shortly after ChatGPT was released in 2022. I've also spent the last 2 years helping other software engineers make the transition from a 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship, and I have come to the conclusion that there are really only 3 skills that you absolutely need to master to survive this transitionary phase of AI being introduced into the market. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first skill that I want to talk about, it's also going to be the most important one, and I want to open it up by an analogy. After having conversed with over 1,000 software engineers from all over the world with different skill levels, some juniors, some seniors, others that are already principals at FANG companies, the number one thing that I have come to the conclusion to is as follows. Let's assume that us as software engineers, let's make the analogy that we are chefs and we have a particular meal to cook. We have all the ingredients in front of us, but we don't quite know exactly how to mix the ingredients into the pot to make exactly what we need to make. The skill that I'm talking about is resourcefulness, okay? Mostly everybody has the resources they need to succeed. But when it comes to being able to utilize those resources, that is a skill that most software engineers need to actually work on. And it is also the same exact skill that not only helped me get promoted so quickly, but it's also what helped me transition over to entrepreneurship so quickly as well. It's being able to be resourceful. Now, what does resourcefulness really entail? How do you improve it as a software engineer? What does that skill even mean? Well, a lot of you have already kind of been doing it just related to only coding on a technical perspective. You haven't been really applying it to other parts of your life. Let me give you an example. What ends up happening when you come across a certain bug or a certain problem in your code? You begin to utilize the resources that you have available to you, right? Well, back in the day, you had Stack Overflow. Nowadays, you'll maybe ask AI. You'll maybe ask another engineer of yours that's a peer, right? But you'll utilize different ways to go about solving that particular problem. What are the resources you used? Well, AI, Google, right? Stack Overflow, another engineer. Maybe you'll take a look at the past works you've done if you realize that, wait, I've seen this bug before. But these are all different resources, and the way you utilize them is called resourcefulness. Unfortunately, when it comes to our careers as software engineers, we tend to shy away from this ability to be resourceful. Whether that's due to the nature of our work and the way our brain is wired, we are just more susceptible to doing it when it comes to coding. But of all the software engineers I observed, and myself included in the past, I could have been, and all other software engineers could be a lot more resourceful to further advance their career. Let me give you one of the biggest examples of this, that the second you do it, you will see at least 10 to 20% increase in your income. And that is to simply utilize your existing resource of talking to people. What I mean by that is, if any of you are currently in a 9-to-5 environment and you want to make more money, one of the first things you should be doing is simply approaching your immediate boss, be it your manager, be it a director, be it a partner of the firm, and simply ask what you need to do to get to the next level when it comes to a promotion perspective. Simply asking somebody who is able to grant you that exact role is actually all you need to get to the next level, let's say in a specific career perspective. Now, another thing is, a lot of you who want to make a transition over to entrepreneurship, you have a significant amount of people in your network. You live in a city. Most often than not, it's going to be a pretty modern city, especially if you're in the United States. And there's resources such as Chamber of Commerce, such as Business Network International, such as these type of things that you can join that will further help you on your journey. So that's what I mean by being resourceful. Utilize everything that you have around you, your network, the people you know, right, the location that you're in, and try to go above and beyond when it comes to utilizing these particular resources. And I don't want you to think of, oh, is he referring to the people I know as resources? Isn't that kind of messed up? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, utilize everything that you have. There's really no other way to put it. Be it the people that you know, be it the opportunities that you can unlock, it's yours for the taking, so you should be able to utilize it properly. Now, to be able to become resourceful, you're gonna need the second skill that every single software engineer needs in 2026, and that is going to be communication skills. Now, when I say communication skills, this is extremely broad because you might be wondering, okay, what does that entail? Communication covers a whole variety of things, and you're correct. When I say communication skills, the particular detail that I'm talking about is more so the art of translating. Now, by translating, I don't mean translating from Mandarin to English or from, Japanese to English. When I say translating, I mean more so being able to comprehend the non-technical or vice versa and translate it to the technical, or comprehend the technical and translate it to the non-technical. Meaning, if I'm a software engineer and I am in a room with a non-technical stakeholder and I have to explain what it is that I do, or I have to explain a particular problem that I am trying to solve, I need to be able to properly communicate that such that the non-technical stakeholder not only understands me, but doesn't get confused and actually understands the point that I'm trying to make. This is going to be an extremely important skill, not only in 2026, but going further ahead into the future, especially considering AI adaptation is becoming more and more popular. More businesses, more people in general are beginning to adapt AI, and thus more non-technical people are being exposed to technical jargon and just in general technical things. So now more than ever, it is extremely important for us as software engineers to begin to develop the translating skills we need to connect the non-technical world to the technical world. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but how do I actually go about doing that? How do I learn to translate properly? This has to come from a mindset shift. So the way you're gonna work on this skill is to change your mindset from that of an employee to that of a business owner. Even if you don't wanna go the entrepreneurship route, you still have to adapt this mindset. Let me explain why. The mindset of an employee, especially that of a software engineer, is mostly about executing particular tasks. You get tasks handed to you and you have to execute these tasks. But that prevents you from actually being able to translate the technical to the non-technical, because the only way you'll be able to make that translation is if you fundamentally understand why you do what you do. Not necessarily what you do, but why you do what you do. For example, why are you building that particular software? Or why are you working on this particular project? What is it leading up to, right? Why are you doing it? What problem is it solving? What particular value does it have on the company as a whole? Is it helping them make more money? Is it helping them save more time maybe? What is it actually doing? What's the main purpose behind it? And once you can answer that question, once you can actually connect the technical work you do to the business value, regardless if it's your own business or somebody else's business, once you can make that connection, only then can you begin to properly translate to the non-technical person, because a non-technical person is going to understand everything either through the lens of money or time, or both, obviously. So that's how you're going to be able to make the connection. And if you've already realized this, we've already discussed 2 skills, and none of them have to do with technicals. And the next skill that I'm going to talk about is not going to have to do anything from a technical perspective either. So that's really the biggest lesson in this video here. Technical skills are no longer the moat for us as software engineers. Still important, however, we have to heavily invest into our soft skills. And if you want to learn how to do that better, I am hosting a free workshop on June 21st, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, talking about how you can make the transition from an employee to becoming a business owner, utilizing AI in this current market right now. We'll be discussing everything you possibly need, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out the first link in the description below. It's going to be completely for free. Now, back to the video. The last skill that I want to discuss is also one that nobody really talks about, but it's the one that most software engineers will actually struggle with. I've seen this time and time again, and frankly, this is the one thing that I also struggled with, and that skill has to do with framing. Now, if you've never heard of framing, another synonymous word for it is positioning, but I'm going to use these synonymously. So framing and positioning, if you see me use them, they're the same exact skill that I'm talking about. Let me first explain what this skill is before I get into how you can work on it and what you should do with it. Positioning or framing is essentially the art of how you present yourself to the outside world. It's not necessarily marketing itself, it's a part of marketing, but it is the most important thing because it's sort of like when they say, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, that's what the cover is actually for. So it's really that cover. If you were a book in this analogy, the positioning or the framing would be, what would your cover look like? A lot of software engineers have a big problem with this exact thing. And I've seen this time and time again. Countless software engineers I worked with, myself included in the past, had the problem of we did not know how to properly frame ourselves, not only when it came to the 9-to-5 we were doing, but also the clients that we wanted to get when we were in a business environment. What ended up happening is people almost always mistook us for developers for hire on an hour-to basis, and we ended up pricing ourselves out as a direct result. It was only after I did one small thing that completely changed how I view framing or positioning. And to help you understand how you can do the same thing, I'm going to explain the story of how I actually went from making $250,000 a year at a 9-to-5, working over 80 hours a week, to doing that same exact amount in a month, working way less in a week. And all of that has to do with framing, because nothing else, particularly about me, at least from a technical perspective, really changed. I would even argue that technically I possibly got worse over time because I stopped doing technical work nearly as much. But essentially the art of framing is this. At a 9-to-5, if I am essentially considered an executor, I get tasks handed to me and I complete these tasks, and my boss comes, gives me a pat on the back and says, good job, you did this, I'll give you a thumbs up for that. In a business environment, the way I have to frame it is not only do I need to actually do the task, at least when I'm first starting off, but I also need to get the person to commit to give me money for me to do that task. So I have to do the role of multiple people. I'm not only the executioner, I'm not only going to be the fulfiller in this case, but I also need to be the person that's going to be able to sell and market. So I need to position myself as the authority in this particular field. That's the key really when it comes to anything that you do as a software engineer. You need to position yourself as the authority in what it is you're doing. Because imposter syndrome is so rampant in the software engineering community, people have an extremely difficult time on positioning themselves as the authority in anything that they do. No matter how talented a software engineer is, I've spoken to people with over 2 decades of software engineering experience, and yet they would have a difficult time positioning themselves as the authority in a conversation with a business owner. They would be having technical talk, and they would listen to what the business owner actually wanted on a technical perspective, and they would be afraid to push back and say, look, this is the bad design decision, maybe we should do it this way. Simply because they just assumed because that person's a business owner or that person has more money than them, they're gonna know more things than them, which is not true. So the first thing when it comes to being able to understand how to position yourself is to not discredit your own knowledge just because somebody makes more money than you or just because somebody's in a better life position than you. That does not mean that they know exactly what you know or they know more than you in your particular field of expertise, which is software engineering. Okay. Second thing, when it comes to actually positioning or framing, a good way to think about it is imagine yourself as a doctor and the person you are speaking with as a patient, regardless, once again, if you're in a 9-to-5 environment talking to your boss, or if you are in a business meeting trying to close a client. When you are pursuing the doctor-patient analogy, what ends up happening is you naturally position yourself such that the other person opposite of you can trust you and can actually understand that you are the authority in wherever it is that you're talking about. When I go to a doctor's office, right, what ends up happening? I describe my symptoms, and if that doctor can further expand on those symptoms and make me feel like he or she understood me, understood my pain that I was talking about, that makes me feel relieved because I'm like, okay, he's seen this before, he understands what I'm talking about. He described things that I had yet to describe to him. So if he can show me that he understands my pain better than myself, if he can show me that he understands whatever I'm describing better than myself, at that moment in time, I can begin to trust him and understand that he is a credible individual. From a software engineering perspective, what this is going to look like, whether it's in a 9-to-5 environment, whether it's in a business environment, is whenever people talk about problems, you're going to need to connect that, once again, when we talk back to the translating thing, the non-technical to the technical and vice versa. If you can do that properly, that is going to create the frame that you are the authority and you know what you are talking about. Let me give you an example of this. Somebody says, look, I have this particular problem in my business where I'm trying to get, more customers, but my automation is not working properly, or I'm not being able to follow up with people in time because I don't know how to set it up from a technical perspective, blah, blah, blah. Your first immediate response shouldn't be, oh yeah, I can set this up, it's gonna be $5,000. No, it should be to go further into that particular thing that you're talking about and frame yourself such that this is something that you've seen before and this is something that is in your area of expertise. So something that would be more appropriate is, okay, when you say follow-up, do you mean email follow-up? Do you mean text follow-up? What do you mean by follow-up particularly? And what is the cadence of the follow-up that you're talking about? So you essentially want to further ask questions about that particular thing. That's how you set the frame, okay? There's obviously a lot more to it when it comes to positioning and framing that it's going to take way too long for me to make a video on right now, but if you want to see it, you can drop it in the comments below. But let's just review the 3 skills that we talked about. So first and foremost, we talked about being resourceful, utilizing the resources that you already have to get to where you want to get to. The second skill that we talked about was communication, but obviously communication is a broad term. We talked about specifically that of a translator, translating non-technical to the technical and the technical to the non-technical. And the last thing we talked about was obviously the skill we just discussed, which obviously has to do with framing / positioning. So if you can fundamentally master these 3 skills, and when I say master, I don't mean become the best at it, simply just perform them better than an average software engineer, you will see an enormous upgrade in your career. Not only, once again, from a financial perspective, but from a lifestyle perspective as well. People will take you more seriously, you'll be able to unlock more opportunities for yourself, you'll be able to future-proof yourself, whether you want to get into a better job or whether you want to pursue entrepreneurship, and best of all, you will position yourself such that you will always be the authority in any room that you walk into. So master these 3 skills, and if you want to know further about how you can properly utilize these skills to build a business that will help you transition out of the 9-to-5 in 2026 utilizing AI, then you need to watch this video right here next. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good rest of your day.